Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the diplomatic shuttle, watching as Nexus Prime's crystalline surface caught the light of its binary stars. The planet's famous aurora rivers, streams of pure energy that flowed like water, cast ever-shifting patterns of blue and violet across the landscape. After 6 months in deep space, she'd finally arrived at humanity's newest diplomatic challenge. Final approach to Crystalline Port Alpha, the pilot announced. Commander, the Nexian High Council awaits your arrival. Sarah straightened her dress uniform, fingers brushing the commander's insignia. At 34, she was the youngest military attaché Earth had ever sent to an alien civilization. The brass hadn't wanted to send her at all. But after 3 failed diplomatic missions, they'd run out of conventional options. The shuttle descended through layers of iridescent clouds, revealing the full majesty of the Nexian capital. Towering spires of living crystal stretched toward the sky, their surfaces pulsing with internal light. Between them, anti-gravity platforms carried Nexians about their business. Tall, ethereal beings with translucent skin that revealed the complex network of energy flowing through their bodies. Remember, Sarah muttered to herself, they're not just advanced, they're ancient. The Nexian civilization was exploring the stars when humans were still figuring out bronze. The shuttle touched down on a landing pad that seemed to be made of pure light. As the hatch opened, Sarah was struck by the absolute silence. No machinery hummed, no vehicles roared, just the faint musical chime of crystal against crystal in the warm breeze. A delegation awaited her, led by a Nexian whose energy patterns glowed with particular intensity. High Counselor Varun, according to her briefings. Behind him stood a younger Nexian whose patterns seemed somehow more chaotic, more dynamic. Commander Chen. Varun's voice resonated directly in her mind, a standard feature of Nexian communication. Welcome to Nexus Prime. I trust your journey was illuminating. Thank you, High Counselor. Sarah bowed precisely 45 degrees. Any less would be casual, any more subservient. Earth extends its gratitude for your continued willingness to pursue diplomatic relations. The younger Nexian stepped forward, his energy patterns flickering with what Sarah interpreted as skepticism. Another human diplomat. The last 3 certainly proved entertaining. Kthur, Varun admonished, Commander Chen is our guest. And my new partner, if I'm not mistaken, Sarah said, meeting Kthur's glow directly. Her briefings had mentioned she'd be assigned a Nexian liaison. I look forward to working together. Kthur's patterns shifted to a deeper blue. You've studied our energy languages. Impressive for a species so young. Before Sarah could respond, a deep resonance shook the landing pad. In the distance, one of the crystal spires had begun to pulse with an intensity that drew every Nexian's attention. Varun's patterns shifted to what Sarah recognized as alarm. The ancestor spire, he whispered, both in mind speech and aloud. It hasn't shown activity in thousands of cycles. Since the last time humans walked on Nexus Prime, Kthur added, his skepticism giving way to curiosity. Varun turned to Sarah, his patterns now unreadable. Commander, would you accompany us to the spire? It seems your arrival has awakened something. The walk to the ancestor spire was tense. Sarah noticed how other Nexians stopped to stare, their patterns shifting rapidly as they passed. The spire itself grew more impressive with each step. A massive structure that seemed to be made of a single crystal, its surface covered in intricate patterns that Sarah somehow felt she should recognize. The spire contains our most sacred artifacts, Varun explained as they approached. Tools and weapons from our ancestors, though none have functioned since the Great Silence. The Great Silence? Sarah asked. Kthur answered, his tone sharp. When your kind vanished from the galaxy. Our histories speak of a time when humans walked among us, but those records were largely dismissed as myths, until now. They'd reached the spire's entrance, a portal of pure energy that parted at their approach. Inside, Sarah's breath caught. Suspended in crystalline cases were objects that defied description. devices that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, weapons that hummed with barely contained power, and at the center, the heart of Nexus, Vuruan announced, our most sacred relic. None have been able to approach it since the Great Silence. The energy field surrounding it rejects all who try. Sarah stepped forward, drawn by something she couldn't explain. The heart was beautiful. A sphere of crystal that seemed to contain a universe in miniature, swirling with colors she had no names for. As she approached, the energy field that had repelled so many others simply vanished. Impossible, Cthulhu breathed. Sarah reached out, her fingers mere inches from the heart's surface. In that moment, everything changed. The heart erupted with light, and Sarah's mind was flooded with images. Humans and Nexians fighting side by side against a darkness between the stars, a terrible choice made in desperate times, and a promise, a prophecy, that one day the alliance would be renewed. When the light faded, Sarah found herself on her knees, Cthulhu supporting her, while Vuruan stood in shocked silence. The heart now pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, its colors matching her own life signs. Well, Sarah managed, her voice shaky but determined. I guess this explains why Earth sent me instead of another diplomat. Though I don't think any of us expected this. Cthulhu's patterns had shifted to a color she'd never seen in her studies. The prophecy speaks of a bridge between worlds, a warrior who would awaken the ancient powers when darkness returns. He paused, his skepticism completely gone. We always assumed it would be a Nexian. The darkness is returning, Sarah said, the knowledge somehow crystal clear in her mind. That's why the heart awakened now. That's why Earth's deep space sensors have been detecting anomalies. We don't have much time. Vuruan's patterns stabilized into resolution. Then it seems, Commander Chen, that your diplomatic mission has become something far more significant. He turned to Cthulhu. You will help her understand our ways. Teach her to use the artifacts. The prophecy must be fulfilled. Cthulhu nodded, offering Sarah his hand. As she took it, she felt a connection form, not the standard Nexian mind speech, but something deeper, more primal. Together then, he said, we prepare for war. Sarah looked at the heart, still pulsing in sync with her own life force. No, she corrected, we prepare to make history, again. The archives beneath the ancestor spire hummed with ancient power as Sarah and Cthulhu worked to decipher the secrets revealed by the heart. 3 days had passed since her arrival, and each hour brought new revelations that challenged everything both species thought they knew about their shared history. Look at this, Sarah called out, her fingers trailing over a crystalline data matrix. The surface responded to her touch, projecting holographic images into the air. These aren't just historical records. They're battle plans. Cthulhu moved closer, his energy patterns rippling with interest. The once skeptical Nexian had become increasingly fascinated by Sarah's ability to interact with their ancient technology. Those formations, they show Nexian and human ships fighting as one fleet. The hologram expanded, showing massive battles against something that seemed to devour light itself. Sarah felt a chill as she watched the ancient recordings. The darkness between stars, she murmured. That's what the heart showed me. It wasn't just poetic imagery. It was literal. The Void Hunters. Cthulhu's patterns shifted to a deep indigo. A color Sarah had learned indicated deep concern. There are ancient warnings about them, but we thought they were myths. Stories to frighten children. Sarah accessed another data crystal, and the room filled with technical specifications. These are weapon designs. Look at the configuration. They're meant to be used by both species together. Nexian energy manipulation guided by human intuition and creativity. It makes sense, Cthulhu admitted, studying the designs. Our species complement each other perfectly. We can channel vast energies but lack the adaptability to use them effectively in combat. Humans are natural warriors, but your bodies can't naturally handle such power. So our ancestors found a solution. Sarah pointed to another hologram. These suits, they're like a synthesis of both species' strengths. Nexian crystal technology adapted for human use. Their research was interrupted by a sudden tremor that shook the archive chamber. Above them, the heart of Nexus pulsed with increasing intensity. Sarah felt it calling to her, an urgent summons she couldn't ignore. "Something's wrong," she said, already moving toward the exit. Cthulhu followed close behind, his patterns alert and ready. They emerged into chaos. The usually serene crystal city was in uproar, with Nexians gathering in frightened clusters as the sky above turned an ominous shade of purple. High Counselor Veruan stood at the base of the spire, surrounded by other council members. "Commander Chen," Veruan's mind speech carried notes of barely controlled panic. "Our deep space sensors have detected something approaching. Something massive." Sarah looked up at the darkening sky, remembering the ancient battles she'd just witnessed in the archives. "They're coming back. The Void Hunters. They're real, and they're returning." "Impossible," one of the council members protested. "Even if these ancient enemies existed, why now? Why after so many thousands of cycles?" "Because we're ready." Cthulhu stepped forward, his patterns blazing with sudden understanding. "The prophecy, the heart awakening, Commander Chen's arrival. It's all connected. We're stronger now than ever before. Both our civilizations have advanced in different ways during our separation." Sarah felt the heart's pulse quicken, matching her own rising heartbeat. "The archives showed me something else," she said. "The reason for the great silence, the separation of our species. It wasn't out of fear or hatred. It was strategy." She projected her memories of what she'd learned, sharing them through the Nexian mind speech network. "Our ancestors knew the Void Hunters would return. They knew that fighting them to a standstill wasn't enough. So they devised a plan spanning millennia." "A plan?" Veruan's patterns showed confusion. "They separated our species," Sarah explained, allowing each to develop independently. The Nexians focused on energy manipulation and crystal technology, pushing it far beyond what was possible during the Alliance. Humans, isolated on Earth, developed problem-solving skills and military strategies that would have been impossible under the guidance of a more advanced civilization. Thur's patterns shifted to match Sarah's excitement. "And now we bring those advancements together, not as mentor and student, but as equals." The prophecy wasn't about finding a savior. It was about timing. Sarah finished, "Waiting until both our species had developed exactly what we needed to defeat the Void Hunters once and for all." Another tremor shook the city, stronger this time. The heart's pulsing grew more intense, and Sarah felt knowledge flowing into her mind. Technical specifications, battle strategies, the location of weapons caches hidden throughout the galaxy. "We don't have much time," she announced. "The archive showed me where to find the combat suits. Thur, I'll need your help to modify them for modern use. Counselor Veruan, we need to contact Earth immediately. It's time to reform the Alliance." "The Council will need to vote," Veruan began, but Sarah cut him off. "With respect, Counselor, we don't have time for politics. Look at your histories. Really look at them. Every significant advancement in Nexian civilization came from working with humanity. Every major human discovery was built on foundations laid during the Alliance. Apart, we're strong. Together, we're unstoppable." The sky darkened further, and long-dormant defense systems throughout the Crystal City began to hum to life. Sarah felt the heart calling her again, showing her visions of what was to come. The Void Hunters weren't just returning. They were evolving, adapting, becoming something even more terrible than before. "Make your choice quickly," she advised the Council. "Because ready or not, war is coming. And this time, it's not just about survival. It's about ending the threat once and for all." Cthulhu stepped to her side, his patterns resolute. "Whatever the Council decides, you have my support, Commander. The archives don't lie. Our species achieve greatness together." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing with plans and strategies. "Then let's get to work. We have a galaxy to save, and I've got some very interesting ideas about how to do it." Above them, The first stars began to vanish as something massive moved through the system, consuming light as it came. The ancient enemy had returned, but this time, humanity and the Nexians would face it together, just as their ancestors had planned all along. Deep within the Ancestor Spire's weapons vault, Sarah stood before a towering crystal chamber, her reflection distorted in its faceted surface. Inside floated what looked like liquid starlight, the combat suit she'd seen in the archives, waiting for thousands of years to be claimed. "Are you certain about this?" Thur's patterns flickered with concern. The integration process was dangerous, even when our ancestors perfected it. Now, after so many cycles, "We don't have a choice," Sarah replied, watching Earth's defense fleet arrive through the vault's crystal windows. Dozens of ships dropped out of hyperspace, taking position alongside the Nexian crystal vessels. The Void Hunters will reach the outer system in less than 48 hours. We need every advantage we can get. The chamber hummed to life as Sarah placed her hand against its surface. The liquid starlight within began to move, responding to her presence. Through her connection to the heart of Nexus, she could feel the suit's ancient systems awakening, recognizing her as compatible. "The archives say this will hurt," she warned, stepping into the chamber. "No matter what happens, don't interrupt the process." Thur's patterns settled into a steady, supportive glow. In the days since Sarah's arrival, their partnership had grown into something neither species had quite seen before, a synthesis of human determination and Nexian wisdom. "I'll monitor your vital signs. Try to relax and let the suit guide you." The chamber sealed, and the liquid starlight began to flow around Sarah's body. The pain was immediate and intense, like being struck by lightning while submerged in ice. Every nerve ending screamed as the suit bonded with her on a molecular level, integrating Nexian crystal technology with human biology. Through the agony, Sarah saw visions, ancient battles, forgotten technologies, and something more, the true nature of what they faced. The Void Hunters weren't just destroyers, they were consumers of consciousness itself, feeding on the combined knowledge and experience of entire civilizations. The integration process reached its peak, and Sarah's scream echoed through the vault. Thur's patterns flared with alarm, but he held his position, trusting both the ancient technology and his human partner's strength. When the chamber finally opened, Sarah emerged transformed. The combat suit had become a second skin, crystal formations flowing like liquid metal across her body, responding to her thoughts. Energy patterns similar to Cthulhu's danced beneath its surface, marking the successful fusion of both species' technologies. "Neural interface active," she reported, her voice overlaid with harmonic frequencies that made the crystals around them resonate. "Weapons systems online. Power levels. Incredible. Is this how you feel all the time?" "We channel ambient energy," Cthulhu explained. "But nothing like this. The suit is amplifying your natural abilities far beyond normal human limits while protecting you from the power overflow." "How does it feel?" Sarah lifted her hand, watching energy collect in her palm before condensing into a sphere of pure force. "Like I could move mountains." She dispelled the energy sphere carefully. "But we'll need more than one suited warrior to face what's coming." "How many chambers do we have?" 17. Cthulhu gestured to the vault's lower levels. "And the Earth ships brought your chosen candidates, all pre-screened for compatibility based on the genetic markers we identified. Integration pods are being prepared in the medical wing for the Nexian volunteers as well." Sarah nodded, reviewing tactical data through the suit's neural interface. The combined fleet was taking position, but conventional weapons would only slow the Void Hunters down. Victory would depend on the suited warriors. Humans channeling Nexian energy through ancient weapons, supported by Nexians who'd undergone their own transformative procedures. Commander Chen, High Counselor Veruan's mind speech reached them. "The Earth delegation has arrived." "They're not what we expected." Sarah smiled, already knowing who Earth had sent. "Let me guess. Instead of diplomats and generals, they sent scientists and engineers, problem solvers and innovators." "Indeed, They're already collaborating with our crystal shapers, proposing modifications to our defensive systems that our people never considered. It's remarkable. That's humanity's greatest strength, Sarah said, making her way to the surface with Kither. We don't just think outside the box. We redesign the box, then figure out how to turn it into a weapon. They emerged to find the Crystal City transformed into a war camp. Human engineers worked alongside Nexian crystal shapers, integrating Earth's quantum technology with Nexian energy manipulation. The result was something entirely new, hybrid systems that drew strength from both civilizations' innovations. Sarah felt the heart of Nexus pulse a warning. Through their connection, she saw the Void Hunters approaching, their vast forms consuming light and life. But she also saw something else. Weakness. The ancient enemy had evolved over the millennia, yes, but they still expected to face the same divided opponents they'd fought before. They don't know, she realized aloud. They can't conceive of how we've changed, how we've grown. Their greatest advantage was always our division, forcing us to retreat, to separate, to weaken ourselves through isolation. Thur's patterns shifted to match her revelation, and now that division ends, not just through technology, but through true understanding. Every human here is learning to see energy patterns. Every Nexian is studying human tactical innovations. Sarah felt the heart of Nexus pulse a warning. Through their connection, she saw the Void Hunters approaching, their vast forms consuming light and life. But she also saw something else. Weakness. The ancient enemy had evolved over the millennia, yes, but they still expected to face the same divided opponents they'd fought before. They don't know, she realized aloud. They can't conceive of how we've changed, how we've grown. Their greatest advantage was always our division, forcing us to retreat, to separate, to weaken ourselves through isolation. Thur's patterns shifted to match her revelation, and now that division ends, not just through technology, but through true understanding. Every human here is learning to see energy patterns. Every Nexian is studying human tactical innovations. Exactly. Sarah activated the suit's communication systems, addressing the combined forces. The Void Hunters think they're returning to finish what they started. Instead, they're walking into a trapped millennia in the making. Our ancestors knew this day would come. They prepared us, shaped us, knowing that only together could we defeat this enemy once and for all. She paused, watching human and Nexian warriors training together, learning to coordinate their strengths. We have one day to prepare, one day to master technologies it took our ancestors years to perfect, one day to prove that humanity's adaptability and the Nexians' power can combine into something unprecedented. Thur's patterns blazed with conviction. One day is all we need. The prophecy wasn't just about you awakening our ancient weapons. It was about awakening both our species to their true potential. Sarah nodded, feeling the combined hope and determination of both species flowing through the neural network. Then let's make it count. We've got some mountains to move. The void between Nexus Prime's moons rippled as reality itself twisted under the Void Hunter's approach. Sarah watched from the command deck of the hybrid carrier Prometheus, her combat suit humming with barely contained power. Around her, 17 other suited warriors stood ready, each connected to the neural network that linked human intuition with Nexian energy manipulation. Multiple breaches detected, Kther reported, his patterns pulsing urgently. They're larger than the ancient records indicated, more organized. Sarah accessed the tactical display through her neural interface. The Void Hunters emerged like living shadows, massive forms that bent light around them. The smallest was the size of a destroyer, the largest rivaling the small moon. Energy weapons from the combined fleet passed harmlessly through their fluid forms. All units, hold position, Sarah commanded. Remember your training. Standard weapons are useless. Wait for them to commit to their attack pattern. The enemy fleet split into 3 groups, moving to surround the defenders. Their confidence was clear in their aggressive positioning. They expected an easy victory against what they thought were primitive descendants of their old foes. They're powering up their consciousness drains. Cthulhu warned, if those fields touch any of our ships, they won't. Sarah opened a channel to all ships. Execute Operation Lighthouse. Now, across the battlefield, Nexian crystal ships began to pulse with brilliant light. The energy patterns that normally flowed beneath their hulls erupted outward, creating a web of pure power between vessels. Human quantum generators added their own distinctive signature to the display, creating a hybrid energy field that illuminated the darkness of space. The Void Hunters hesitated, confronted with something they'd never seen before. In that moment of confusion, Sarah gave the signal. Suited warriors, form up. Time to show them how humanity improves on ancient technology. Sarah led her team out of the carrier, their suits allowing them to move through space as easily as air. Each warrior trailed streams of crystalline energy, their human minds directing Nexian power in ways that defied conventional physics. The first Void Hunter to reach their position was the size of a cruiser, its surface rippling with dark tentacles that absorbed all light. But as it tried to extend its consciousness drain, something unexpected happened. The hybrid energy field didn't just resist, it pushed back. Channel everything through the heart's frequency, Sarah ordered, remembering the patterns she'd seen in her visions. They're not just feeding on consciousness. They're scared of it, of awareness itself. That's why they consume it. Understanding flowed through the neural network. The suited warriors began to pulse in unison, their combined power focused through the prism of human creativity. Where the ancients had fought defensively, trying to shield themselves from the consciousness drain, Sarah's warriors went on the offensive. They drove their combined awareness into the Void Hunter's form like a spear of light. The creature recoiled, its fluid form solidifying as it tried to defend itself. In that moment of vulnerability, enhanced quantum torpedoes from Earth's ships struck true, their warheads modified with Nexian crystals to maintain coherence in the creature's distorted space. The Void Hunter's death scream echoed through both normal space and the consciousness spectrum, but there was no time to celebrate. Its larger companions were already adapting, changing tactics. Watch their patterns. Cthulhu called from his position, coordinating the Nexian fleet. They're learning, evolving their strategy. The next wave of Void Hunters attacked in concert, their consciousness drains overlapping to create zones of absolute nullification. Two human destroyers strayed too close, their crews falling silent as their minds were consumed. A Nexian crystal ship sacrificed itself to create a power surge that pushed the monsters back, but the cost was mounting. They're too strong for direct confrontation, Sarah realized, watching the battle through both physical and energy senses. We need to. Her words cut off as a massive consciousness drain swept toward the Prometheus. Acting on instinct, she threw herself into its path, her suit's power reserves burning bright as she tried to deflect the attack. The drain hit her like a tsunami of darkness. Sarah felt her memories beginning to fade, her sense of self drowning in an ocean of hunger that had devoured entire civilizations. But something else stirred within her, the heart of Nexus, its power flowing through her suit's systems, anchoring her consciousness. Through the neural network, she felt Cthulhu's patterns interweave with her fading thoughts, holding her together. Other Nexians joined him, creating a framework of energy that supported her human mind. The suited warriors added their strength, and gradually, impossibly, Sarah pushed back against the drain. That's it, she gasped, understanding blooming through the pain. We've been fighting wrong, trying to match their strength, but humanity's gift isn't power. It's connection, Cthulhu finished, grasping her strategy. The ability to unite, to combine strengths in ways that create something greater than the sum of its parts. Sarah pulled herself back to the Prometheus, her suit's power reserves dangerously low. All units fall back to secondary positions, initiate protocol unity, and someone get me a quantum transmitter. We need to call in our reserve fleet. Reserve fleet. Cthulhu's patterns showed confusion. What reserve fleet? Sarah managed a tired smile as she watched the Void Hunters press their advantage, believing victory was near. The one eye had Earth's engineers building while everyone else was focused on weapons. Sometimes the best weapons aren't weapons at all. As if in answer, new quantum signatures appeared at the edge of the system. But these ships were different, smaller, faster, built not for combat, but for something far more ambitious. The Void Hunters were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been its ability to fight, but its capacity to change the rules of engagement entirely. The reserve fleet emerged from quantum space like a constellation taking flight. Hundreds of small vessels, each barely larger than a shuttle, their hulls studded with crystalline matrices that pulsed in perfect harmony. The Void Hunters paused their assault, ancient consciousness registering confusion at this unexpected development. "What are they?" Cthulhu asked, his patterns reflecting the same confusion as their enemies. Sarah stood on the Prometheus's command deck, her depleted suit drawing power from the ship's hybrid core. Something humanity learned while stranded on Earth. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to be stronger, but to be smarter. The small ships moved in perfect formation, taking positions throughout the battlefield. Each one activated its quantum core, creating a web of interconnected fields that began to resonate with the Nexian energy patterns already in place. "The Void Hunters feed on consciousness," Sarah explained, watching the pattern take shape. "They devour awareness itself. But what happens if we give them too much to handle?" Understanding dawned in Cthulhu's patterns. "The quantum cores. They're consciousness amplifiers." "Better." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. "They're consciousness redistributors. Earth's engineers took your crystal technology and modified it. Instead of trying to shield our minds from the Void Hunters, we're going to share them. All of them. At once." The implications rippled through the neural network as both humans and Nexians grasped the audacity of the plan. The small ships weren't weapons. They were nodes in a vast neural web designed to connect every mind in the fleet into a single, unified consciousness. "Everyone, brace yourselves," Sarah warned. "This is going to feel strange." She activated the system, and reality shifted. Suddenly, Sarah wasn't just herself. She was everyone. Every human crew member, every Nexian warrior, their thoughts and experiences flowing together like tributaries joining a vast river. The suited warriors acted as focal points, their hybrid nature allowing them to channel and direct this tsunami of shared consciousness. The Void Hunters reacted immediately, their hunger driving them to attack this unprecedented feast of awareness. But as their consciousness drains engage, they encountered something they'd never faced in all their millennia of consuming civilizations: unity. When they tried to devour one mind, they got all of them. Human creativity merged with Nexian wisdom, creating defenses that evolved faster than the Void Hunters could adapt. Every attempted attack added to the collective understanding, making the next defense stronger. "Push them back," Sarah commanded, her voice carrying the weight of countless minds. The suited warriors moved as one, no longer 18 individuals, but a single force driven by the combined will of two species. The Void Hunters tried to retreat, but the neural web followed them. Humanity's quantum technology allowed it to bridge normal space, while Nexian crystals maintained the integrity of the shared consciousness. For the first time in their ancient existence, the Void Hunters knew fear. They're not just predators, Sarah realized, the collective consciousness allowing her to finally see the enemy clearly. They're parasites. They consume awareness because they lost their own ages ago. They're empty inside, and that emptiness drives them to devour everything they touch. "Then let's fill that emptiness," Cthulhu suggested, his patterns merging with Sarah's through the neural web. Sarah understood instantly. All units convert from defense to transmission. Don't fight their consciousness drain. Reverse it. Show them who we are. All of us. The battlefield lit up as the combined fleet executed her order. Instead of resisting the Void Hunters' attack, they embraced it, using the creature's own consciousness drains as conduits. Through these connections, they poured their shared experience into the ancient enemy. Every human triumph and failure, every Nexian discovery and setback, the joy and pain and growth that made them who they were. The largest void hunter was the first to change. As it absorbed this feast of experience, its light-consuming form began to crystallize, taking on a solid shape for the first time in eons. Others followed, their fluid darkness transforming into crystalline structures that caught and reflected starlight. "They're remembering," Cthulhu observed in awe, remembering what it was like to be conscious, to be alive. The transformation spread through the Void Hunter fleet like a wave of light overtaking darkness. Where once there were monsters, now there were new beings, neither human nor Nexian, nor what they had been before, but something altogether different. As the neural web carefully disconnected, returning individual consciousness to all participants, Sarah watched the transformed creatures begin to communicate with each other through patterns of reflected light. Not bad for a species that was learning to make bronze when the Nexians first reached the stars, she said, allowing herself to sag against Cthulhu as exhaustion finally overtook her. His patterns shifted to support her, both physically and energetically. "I think perhaps we needed that time apart. Humans had to find their own path, develop their own strengths. If we had guided your development, we wouldn't have learned to think differently," Sarah finished. "To solve problems in ways you'd never consider, just like you needed time to perfect your energy manipulation without human distractions." High Counselor Veruan's mind speech reached them, tinged with wonder. The prophecy wasn't about defeating the Void Hunters through force. It was about healing them, healing all of us. Separate, we could only fight. Together, we could understand and transform. The transformed Void Hunters were already beginning to construct their own crystal structures, building something new in the space between worlds. Their ancient hunger had been replaced with a desire to create, to connect, to become part of the greater consciousness they had experienced. Sarah watched them work, her combat suit humming softly as it synchronized with Cthulhu's energy patterns. "So, partner," she said, ready to help forge a three-way alliance, "because I have some ideas about combining their new crystal structures with our quantum tech and your energy manipulation." Cthulhu's patterns sparkled with amusement, already planning the next innovation. "You humans never rest, do you?" "Nope," Sarah grinned. "It's kind of our thing." Now about those ideas. Above Nexus Prime, the three suns rose on a new era, one where the combined strengths of humanity and the Nexians had not only ended an ancient threat, but transformed it into something beautiful. The prophecy had been fulfilled, not through destruction, but through the uniquely human gift of finding another way. As the suited warriors gathered for debriefing, their hybrid powers now permanently part of them, Sarah felt the heart of Nexus pulse with approval. The ancient artifact had known all along that victory would come not from the strength of weapons, but from the power of connection. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't their ability to fight. It was their endless capacity to adapt, to innovate, and to bring people together in ways that changed everything.